By the way, I just thought to let you know I've hit the
We've
go
got a
live
terrible
button.
connection.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave. He's got terrible Wi-Fi.
Give me a sec. Let
Oh,
me
dear.
see if I can turn this Wi-Fi off.
Oh, that's much better.
It'll be better.
Yeah. You look great, Dave.
Oh, thanks. I feel ragged.
Don't we all?
You're both run ragged.
Yeah, it seems
I
never
don't
ending.
know
at the
about in
minute, to be
Canada,
honest.
but we're living in some very strange times here.
Very strange times here on so many different levels. We can't really. I mean, it just defies imagination. I don't know about your situation. I believe that you're more or less coming out of the madness compared to what we're in, because we have local driving restrictions. I can't even. I'm not even allowed to go into the next municipality
Oh,
Wow.
unless it's
that's tough.
for explicit business, or as in our case, we've got some medical situations that we have to drive to a hospital in Vancouver, and that we have that right. But other than that, there's no driving privileges.
That is harsh.
It is, yeah. But things could be worse. The place that we were chatting with earlier today in Brazil on the live stream, just a couple of months ago, they had 4,000 deaths in the month of March. So we have to put things into perspective. It's a much different situation for us in this hemisphere.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had it very lightly where we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of where we're at right now. I mean, Dave contacted me and said, we should have a chat about what's going to be happening for the Yorkshire Motor Festival, and he explained some good stuff. I mean, and it's so true. It's not just about the cars; it's about everything else, especially in the light of the fact that you may get participation reduced considerably.
We might. In fact, it's likely at the moment, I think. But the worst we think it can be is 4,000 people a day. And it'll allow a core group of people to come together and socialise. We've got an enormous open air site. And, hopefully it will come together.
Yeah. Well, and I think that one thing that Dave mentioned that it caught my attention is it's actually something that some other groups have been doing. And I think it needs to be said is that it's not just about the cars. It's everything else that goes along with it. There's family participation events, there's food, and there's a family structured things. So there's a bit of everything for everybody. But he also mentioned to me, and Dave, don't hesitate to jump in. One of the things that I don't know if you came up with the idea yourself, but it's something that I heard from the Northwest Kit Car Owners Group, is that in some of the events that they have structured in the past, they have had places where people could park their vehicles of a type, and so that everybody could participate and say, here's my group, and they had camping on site as well. Is that kind of something that you're doing there?
That's exactly what we're doing.
That's fabulous.
For example, if you have a Lotus 7, you can take your Lotus 7 into the car club paddock. It has to be pre-booked, obviously. And then we will have a line of Lotus 7s, and the Lotus 7 owners will all be able to socialise together and look at each other's cars, and other people, the public, can come in, look at your cars and talk to you about your cars. And it's very much that people are accessible and they can tell their story and the story of their car, how they rebuilt it, where they bought it. Was it something they did with their father, or, is this a new hobby? And then in the evening, all the Lotus 7 owners will have a designated parking area in the general campsite, but they'll all be able to camp together.
That's lovely.
And it's going to be a very sociable event.
Mm-hmm.
We've got music in the evenings. They might go as a group to that. The music is quite low key because we're not allowed to have a big festival where everybody dances at the front of the stage.
Mm-hmm.
So people will sit round in small groups, take a bottle of wine in. It will be very sociable.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what we've been missing for a long time, is the social aspect of it all. And we've all been doing sort of club meetings via Zoom and stuff, and it's been all right, but you don't get to sort of sit in person. And I think, to my experiences, we have sprint and hill climb events, and when they're double headers and you're camping overnight, you get the excuse to sit around, eat dinner and drink with your friends, and you just get general chat. It's not necessarily even about cars, it's just about anything and everything. And I think that's what people have been missing, and I think that's one of the best things about the cars, to be honest with you. It's the social network that goes with it. The cars are sort of icing on the cake, really.
Yeah.
You start talking about the cars, and then you realise that the other people are very like-minded, don't you?
Well, I think if you don't mind me just jumping in, one of the things I have done, taking it upon myself to create our Facebook page 7 Spot. It's never about me. It's about the stories. These cars have the ability to help people share their life story, and that's the most wonderful thing to get, and just share it. It's wonderful.
I think that's very much the way it's going to be at the Yorkshire Motorsport Festival.
Yeah,
and we're encouraging people to bring their families as well.
Yeah,
we've got things like a fun fair for the children. There's a children's beach. There's all sorts of games and activities for them: face painting, sand art, coconut shies, splatter wrap, giant Jengo. It's a very child-friendly environment.
I know you said you had a soapbox derby on the Thursday night as well. Which
that's right.
I know Odin's dying to do that, but I don't know if we've got the materials to live up to his expectations, and I certainly don't have the time to help him. So you can imagine a 6-year-old in a homemade contraption going down the road.
That takes me more than a few years back, but yes, I actually did that as a 6-year-old and built my own. You just have to let him go into your tool chest. That's the hardest part, because in my situation, I know that I lost more tools than I did put together to make the car.
Well, I've got a friend who works with us occasionally, and he's very strict with him and says he's got to make sure things go back. And he came in one day and he put a spanner on the floor, and then he said to him, "Why have you put that there? Put it back." He said, "That's where Daddy put it. I'm putting it back there."
Brilliant is right.
Yeah.
I think he might end up with a cardboard box on a skateboard, and he'll go down in that. Maybe we'll find out.
I'm just hoping there's a very big mattress at the bottom of this hill.
Oh, he's a tough lad. He bounces.
So you see, what we're doing is we're not just bringing the car owners together.
Yeah,
there's a sort of a local community aspect to this as well. So some of the local schools will be taking place in the Soapbox Derby, and they've done that as a joint project. For example, one of the other car clubs, the Bentley Boys, they're going to play cricket against one of the local cricket clubs on Thursday. And a number of the car clubs will drive out en masse and go to some of the local hostelries, I think.
That's lovely.
He said Bentley are involved as well, didn't you? Say they were taking some brand new cars, not yet delivered to customers, and they're going to be racing them up the hill.
Yeah.
And the customers are okay with this.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like,
and the customers know they're doing
spent on this car.
But, I mean, we're very lucky some of the cars that are being put up the hill. One of the cars that we've got, it's a D-type Jaguar, and this is going up our hill. This little hill in Yorkshire with some really nasty bends. And I don't know how much this particular D-type Jaguar is, but a very similar one sold for $20 million, not pounds sterling, dollars.
No. Yeah.
And they're taking it up our hill. How mad is that?
Wow. Send me a video, please.
Yeah.
Don't you wish you could be?
I don't know what you're doing for the hill climb because I've not, I looked at entering it and it had an entry list of, was it pre-74 or something only, so that ruled me out. But then if I've got a trade stand, how would you compete? And to be on a trade stand, it'd be difficult, but I'd love to be able to do it. Yeah. But it does take me back for, I used to build engines for classic race cars. So we worked for the company that made the original GT40 Ford engines. And we were building Lola engines and whatever. I know a lot of those cars were verging on priceless, and they were still racing them. I built an engine for David Piper. He won the Classic Le Mans with that engine. I found out because my 4-year-old son at the time watched it on YouTube and had to tell me. Nobody else bothered telling me. It's like, wow, it's the biggest achievement I've ever had. And I was told by a 4-year-old. But just the value in these cars and the fact that they're racing them. I know they were starting to complain that they were letting replicas in. And someone said, well, what's your problem? It's an exact replica. And the answer to that was kind of, my car's worth £12 million. And he built his for 250,000. Who cares more about their car? And it's like, well, yeah, when you're sort of, wheel to wheel racing, kind of makes a difference. Does that sort of money, doesn't it? Really, it's a different world. It really is.
Wouldn't they be annoyed though to be beaten by the replica?
Well, I don't know.
I've got nothing to say.
When because
I'm a replica.
When I was competing with really broken rear wings, they were mainly gaffer tape holding them together, and on a regular basis I get people giving me new rear wings and saying, oh, you should put these on, think of the weight you'll save without all that gaffer tape. And I'd say, but think of how much slower I'll drive if I'm not prepared to smash the wing to pieces. So if it's a cheap car, you'll thrash its nuts off. Like the low cost series. These cars cost a couple of grand, not 30 grand. You can thrash it like mad. You can crash it. If you crash it and bend it all, you take it back to your garage, you weld it back together, and you're out again next week. And it costs you a few £100. Whereas I crash mine, and I'm already into 13,000 to repair it. Yeah. So it's having the value to it often means you drive it slower. So, and I do say in competition, if you're not prepared to crash, you're probably not going to win. So you've got to suck it up and deal with that. But
we're hoping that nobody crashes too badly.
Well, yes. I mean, some events you go to, it's there's lots of them, and other events you get away with it scot-free. So it all depends on how it sort of pans out, but yeah.
I'd be very surprised if a few people didn't hit bales.
Oh, it'll happen.
Well, it was a hay bale that totaled mine. In fairness, the hay bale was the size of a saloon car, and there was a massive rock underneath it. So the car didn't.
That's the reason you have hay bales.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it was probably better than the rock, I'll tell you that. Yeah. So, and I got away pretty much unscathed, a few cuts and bruises, but that was it. And a very nice dent in a wallet. So, and 2 years later, I'm only just getting around to fixing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But,
So are you going to try and compete next year?
I tried last year, but like I said, the entry wasn't open for me. So if they let me in, I'd love to.
Well, we're looking at new classes for next year.
Right. Well, yes, I'd definitely love to, because I said at the time, if you wanted 30 to 60 caterers to turn up, we could potentially look at getting it on the club's championship calendar. So, but I know this year it falls on the same weekend as Aintree. So Aintree at the race course, but it's also an old historic F1 circuit. So you'll probably see video or photographs of Graham Hill racing around there.
Yes.
So, I think there's a bunch of people who may well be dropping in on the way there or on the way back, sort of thing. But the club's had a bit of a change lately in its management team. So the competition secretary's changed. Well, every position's changed, which is why it's been a bit awkward to arrange anything, to be honest with you. So, I don't know.
We've got quite a few coming, haven't we?
Yes, yeah, we're doing all right. But like I said, I mean, if we could have got it on the club calendar, because I broached it with the old competition secretary next year, and he sort of ummed and ahed. But like I say, if you do that, the entry lists for most of them that are not limited by the club that we'll be a guest of, you're going to see 40 to 60. So easy enough. So, I mean, we've got 7 classes. Some might only have 4 in a class. Some might have 20 in a class. But you could have very large numbers there. But I know Michael was saying he wanted variety. And in fairness, 60 caterums isn't a lot of variety.
No.
So, but they were at
But
Pembrey
it's a lot
last
of
weekend,
fun.
which was a non-championship round. So potentially we could fit something like that in if it doesn't clash. But I mean, even if it does clash, I'd take a break out of the season next year, assuming I don't crash it again and I've got a car. Then, yeah, I'd be up for doing that event, definitely. You know, it's something a little bit different. I don't think that particular road I know particularly well, to be perfectly honest with you, but it's right on the doorstep for me. So, and I know the surrounding area very well. So, yeah.
Of course, Jim
stunning.
won't know the area around Homeforth. It's absolutely beautiful. We're up in Yorkshire, which is in the north of England, and the countryside. It's a very rural area, and the countryside.
I think the best way. Sorry for putting it in. You must have seen Last of the Summer Wine, Jim.
I'm afraid I don't have the entertainment gene.
Oh,
so sorry.
Well, Last of the Summer Wine. It was basically 3 old pensioners just up to sort of teenage stuff. It was very funny.
It was very, very funny. It's one of the comedies that stood the test of time.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
But that was all filmed in Homeforth. So the surrounding area is where it is. It's in that sort of countryside. So you imagine it's the archetypal God's own country. It really is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, stunning scenery. So we're hoping for the car club area, we can get all the cars lined up in the right direction. So we've got brilliant scenery in the background, and this would be sort of, you know, epic.
It's going to be a heck of a photo opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
This is kind of what piqued my interest, and I'm going back to kind of the earlier part of the discussion, and which is, you know, what Dave had with me yesterday. It was, you know, it's not just about the cars; it's about everything else that you do. And I guess what I'm getting back to is for looking past the days that we're in this morass of COVID, or in your case, coming out of the COVID situation, looking forward, not only to this year, but looking into the future. You know, what David mentioned was, you know, trying to get the participation level up so that it's just not about the cars, but it's also a festival of spirit that happens inside and outside of the paddock, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes, this is absolutely what we're looking at. And as I said earlier, one of the only car club who is specifically sort of doing that in an organised way this year are the Bentleys with the cricket match against the locals. But we'd like all the car clubs to be doing something en masse with the locals. Whatever that might be, you know, some sort of competition, some sort of social event. I know that the Lotus guys have got a lot of musicians amongst them, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, that's cool. That's very cool.
And I think you're thinking that there might be a bit of music in the campsite, aren't you, Dave?
I'd like to think we can work that out, but I know one guy he's a guitar teacher and he loves that kind of thing, but I don't know if he can make it or not. I've got another friend who might be able to do it, but again, I mean, there's lots and lots of local bands, but I mean, none of them really do acoustic stuff. So maybe if you give them a stage for next year, then they'll do that.
And maybe, but I mean, it doesn't really matter because we have got music in the music fields in the evenings, and people, as I say, can go and cluster together. And although the musicians are not sort of nationally known, they are very good.
Yeah, well, it's all good. Can I'm intrigued by the camping. Is this part of the festival that you've done in the past? Has had people camping on site?
We haven't done the Motorsport Festival before.
Oh, this is a new thing then.
It was meant to happen
be.
last year, and it didn't
Okay.
happen due to COVID. So this is
Okay,
going to
I
be
got
the
it.
first year, but kind of postponed a year.
And so with the camping, I mean, I think this is brilliant. I mean, I'm just throwing myself in here because I'm in Canada. I love to camp. Camping is just the best. And when I've camped in Europe and they've camped in Canada, and camping in Canada is very much a different situation. It's a very family oriented, but it's often very much a private situation, you and nature. Whereas when I was camping in Europe, it's very social.
This will be fairly social.
Yeah, and that intrigues me because if there's anything that will get anybody together, whether it's talking about the cars or talking about your lives or talking about your children, there's no better venue than a campsite.
No, and we're very lucky. And the whole site of the festival is 130 acres, and so we've got quite a large area for camping, and we're mixing tents, motorhomes. And lots of people have booked family tickets. There will be families with children.
The other thing that I think makes a big difference to this, we've just discovered that you can rent a caravan. So my wife will not be in a tent. She's bothered. She's stressing about how far from the toilets am I going to be? If I need to be in the middle of the night, what am I going to do? We can rent a caravan and have it delivered on site. And they will come round once a day and change the batteries for you, so you've got power in it.
Wow.
So, and now you've got a place to go back to through the day, should you get tired or whatever. You've got somewhere to sleep. You've got your own toilet at night. If you've got kids, they're not, and it's difficult to sort of socialise with a group of adults. You're out there sort of eating and drinking together, but you've put your kids to bed. But yeah, if you're sort of getting and squeezing into a tent next to a child, then how's it going to work? So there are options. This will work. There's no reason for it to.
It's very civilized.
Yeah,
and can I ask you, I'm along this line, I'm just jumping in here because you've got my attention with the camping. You mentioned that you've got a parking facility or dedicated parking for Lotus 7s. I know that I talked to other groups, and for instance, Kit Fest is coming together, and they have different areas for everybody to camp in. Everybody celebrates their own mark. But is for in your situation? Is it it doesn't involve kit cars as well? Then does it, or is it just for instance to Lotus 7s, or are replicas? Would they be welcome?
If people had, so in the car club paddock, various makes of car, various brands of car will have rows of them. So if there are enough kit cars and people are bringing kit cars, if there are enough kit cars, then they can have a row to themselves.
Well, that's what I was hoping, because I was going to. I had tried to communicate with Trevor Harmer from the Northwest Kit Club car owners group, and I guess he's just not available right now to join this conversation. But he was interested. I mean, we had a private little messenger chat about it, and he's very keen. And I've actually communicated with others in that group about what's going on in your situation, because they want to come.
Yeah.
So I think, Keren, we should. 7 Spot is a page for all 7 type vehicles. So the original 7 was the Lotus 7, and it sort of grew from there, and Caterham took the rights on and what have you. But it's become a lot larger thing. There are lots of people who make a version of the 7, and 7 Spot encompasses all of these. And I think potentially, if this is going out on Jim's page, which is truly a global page, and it's got a lot of reach, I'm thinking potentially even the sort of same paddock area, just my sort of OCD would want me is to park them in make order. And I think to have the photo opportunity, you need them all lined up to the same vista, going in the same direction, but in their own mark, because they look slightly different. And I think having the uniformity down a line is eye-catching, and it's great as a spectacle for other people to see. And I don't think there's any reason why it should be exclusively for Caterhams and Lotus 7s. It could encompass the others as long as it looks orderly and neat. And I think it'd be nice to have them all side by side, because I mean, I think of late there's been a few people who have made caterum owners look very elitist,
Yeah.
and I want to prove to people that that's not the case. We're not like that.
No, I
It's
know that.
not
I've got
the
loads of
majority of us.
I
So
belong to the Lotus Club, British Columbia, and let me tell you that the best mates, they're just great.
yeah, but like I say, it's a few bad apples that spoil it, and I think that means that we've all got to go out on a limb and prove it different. And I think by us all being together as a community as a whole, rather than your little subsection and your cliquey bunch, which I think even in the Lotus and Caterham 7 Club, it's had its own little sort of cliques. You'd have your track day people, you'd have your sort of festival road people, you'd have your people who circuit race, the people who do sprints and hill climbs, and they all end up slightly separate. But I don't think it needs to be like that. I think you don't have the opportunity to meet, and if you do, then that's great, you know. And I think it's all about the people rather than the car. And you might look at somebody else's car and go, don't particularly like that. But the fact is that they do, and then that's what's great about it. And you might look at somebody else's car and completely aspire to it. But that's what it's all about, is, you know, the variety. Life's boring without variety, let's face it. So, you know,
I'll go back to what I say is that it's the stories, it's our life stories in many cases, and the vehicles are just another opportunity to help us share it. That's all it is.
Yeah. And when you get together with the like-minded people, often you've been at events in the past with things, or you know mutual people, and it's the reminiscing about things. It's, you know, I was trying to explain to somebody the other day about the value of a car that he was potentially going to buy. And I was like, the value of your car is whatever somebody's prepared to pay for it. The truth of the matter is, what does that car make you feel like? Are you going to go somewhere and remember that trip or that journey or the event you went to for the rest of your life with fond memories? And maybe even the not fond memories, but the memories are all the same. And I think the rubbish memories make the fond ones even better, because you've got something to gauge it against. That's what it's all about.
Hopefully people are going to make some memories this, you know, at this festival.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Well, I guarantee you they will. They
Enough people
will.
there, so therefore we can promote it for next year. So, like you're saying, with organising events and stuff, it's awkward to organise something. I mean, I'm just down the road, and it's hard enough for me to sort of try and work out, or what could you do, how you're going to arrange this, and it's sort of the weird times that you don't want to arrange something because you don't know if it's going to come to fruition, because you don't know if you'd be allowed and how you deal with it. And then you imagine somebody else trying to arrange this from the other end of the country. Whereas I think once you've been there once and you understand the lay of the land, and you go,
and
right,
you know what you're going to.
Yeah, we have potential space for that. Can we have, you know?
And it's also about creating a movement. I mean, I'm stop blowing my own little horn, but that's the reason why I created 7 Spot. It's really not about the mark. It's about the movement, and it's really about telling the story. And so if you can look past the event horizon of just, you know, was it June 27th? And look at next year and the year after and 5 years down the road. What kind of community are you going to create? That's really the biggest story.
Well, that's the way I've been pushing it to everybody I've been speaking to, is this, I'm hoping we can make into the go-to 7 event of the year.
Yeah.
And if you want to do one event with your car, this is it. This is the big one that everybody talks about. For the next 10 years, you're going to be talking about this, and it's going to be a sort of a social gathering like no other.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of, in a strange way, helped by COVID, because it's been
a lot of recovery that has to happen
for everybody.
And this is part of the recovery
long.
Process. This is absolutely what it's about.
I know I'm on a WhatsApp group with a bunch of people, and they've been arranging trips for ages, and they all keep getting postponed and put back. And it's like, oh, what can you do? Whereas if there's an already pre-organized event that we can do a little bit of extra organization to get ourselves together and turn up en masse, that's exactly what everybody's been wishing for the last 12 months. So, you know, I think this has the potential to run and run for decades.
I agree.
Oh, I mean,
So-
even cars arriving is going to be exciting. You know, that in itself is going to be, you know, through these beautiful little stone villages on narrow streets. It's just going to be amazing.
Yeah, I can see I don't know, compost cafe. You sat
Yeah.
there. I mean, I know it's not quite like that, but you can imagine sat outside, drinking coffee, and just watching all these cars turning up.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
when there's an
exactly
event
right.
that's happening that you didn't know about, and you keep seeing all these cars, you go, "What's going on?
Exactly.
How brilliant will that be just for the
I'm
locals?"
getting excited, and I'm on the other side of the world.
I wish I knew nothing about it and lived at the bottom of the road, and you're just going, "What's going on? This is amazing."
Yeah.
Yeah. It is going. I mean, the spectacular cars in a very spectacular setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
We can't wait to send you pictures, Jim.
Well, please do, and send them quickly, because I've said it and I mean it sincerely. I want to get this edited, and you know what? I don't even know if I'm going to edit it. I might just put this in holus bolus because it's fabulous. And if you just send me some pictures, and you know, I'll take what video I can find off of the internet and off of places that I'm allowed to take it, and I'll edit it together and put it up on 7 Spot. Certainly, I'll put it up on our YouTube page. I'll send you a duplicate copy so that you can spread it wide and far. And I'll have a chat with you, Dave, because Keren's not too computer savvy, she says.
I'm not. I'm really not.
You got your act together quicker than I did tonight.
And I'll send you some old Git sharing ideas that to help you spread the word, because it's really quite simple. It's not rocket surgery.
You see, one of the particularly exciting things about this, and I think Dave will agree with me, is that in England, we're still very much a country of two halves. And there are lots of events that go on in the south of England. And so to have something on this scale up in the north is fabulous.
Yeah, I think it's been lacking for a long time, and we've never really had
And
the sort of traditional venue for it, whereas now we've got the opportunity to close the road, and that's not happened in 100 years.
Yeah.
That in itself is quite phenomenal, and the fact that it's happening up here, and now I'm getting the feeling that this event is going to be a cross between the Festival of Speed and the Goodwood Revival in the north.
Look at
With
that.
a bit of Chateau Impney thrown in.
A bit of what, sorry?
Chateau Impney thrown in.
I'm not familiar with that.
You've not heard of the hill climbs at Chateau Impney?
No, whereabouts is that? What country is it in?
It's England.
Really?
Anyway, moving on. But no, Jim, the historical context to this is last year when we were first supposed to start, it was 100 years since people did this famous hill climb. It's the Wolfstone Hill climb. And of course, 100 years ago, you didn't have to have permission to close the roads. You know, people just drove up and ignored the peasants, sort of thing. Whereas now, it's taken us, it took about 18 months to get permission to have all the licenses, the council, you know, it was a huge undertaking. And, you know, the boys on the team just did fantastically well to get this sorted out. And we are the first people in the north of England ever to close the public roads for a motorsport event.
Well, I know that I'm going to be speaking to other people, including Trevor Harmer, who is right over my shoulder, right back there.
Oh, hi, Trevor.
He's being broadcast over my. We did a previous video, but in any event, he will be spreading the word with the Northwest Kit Car Owners Group, and they do celebrate all festivals of speed and of car ownership. And so believe me, he's going to be in, and I know that in your area, and I know that there's another gentleman who's part of our group who I've done a live stream with, and he's got a local club that I want to be in touch with him right away. And so we will get the word out for you. And get
That
it.
is absolutely fantastic.
Well, it's my pleasure. Why don't we wind this down, because we've been chatting for 35 minutes now.
Yeah.
So why don't we put a bow on this? But if you can send me a whole bunch of pictures, and if you have access to videos, please just let me know, and I will send you a Dropbox link so you can put them in comfortably and easily, and they'll be immediately. I can get to use them immediately and start editing them and putting them up so that we can spread the word. How's that sound?
That sounds absolutely marvelous, and thank you so much for taking your time to do this.
Oh, are you kidding me? It's your time too. Let's see that it's Betty Buy's time for you, and I've just had lunch.
But
So,
Jim, we get to go to the festival.
Yeah, we're the lucky ones in this scenario.
Yeah, we're the lucky ones.
yeah.
Next year, Jim, you'll have to make the trip over.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
So
ship the car over.
Okay, perfect. All right.
We are absolutely gutted that we had a lot of people competing from Europe and they're not able to come this year.
Yes, I know. Yeah. Well, you know what? That's why I say let's build the community and make it your ethos instead of just, a date on the calendar. It really is about, as Dave was saying, make it an event that you'll all want to speak about for generations. And that's really what it's about. And it's not about the cars. It's about the community. That's what I'm focused on.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Cheers for now. I'm going to put it.
Thank you very much.
All
Good
right.
night, gentlemen.
All right. Cheers.
Right, good talking to you both. See you then.
All right. Bye.